Happy New Year and welcome back to From Kitchen to C-Suite, the podcast that dives deep into the strategic issues, operational challenges, and economic forces shaping the modern hospitality industry. I'm your host, Don, and as we kick off the new year, we have a critical conversation to share: the economic headwinds pounding Main Street hospitality. It's undeniable. The past year has been a period of profound economic turbulence for Main Street across America. We've all felt the pinch, in our wallets, at the grocery store, and in the rising costs of daily life. But for one sector, the challenges have coalesced into a perfect storm, placing its very foundation under intense pressure: the hospitality industry. From the beloved local diner that's been a community cornerstone for decades, to the small, independently owned boutique hotel that offers a unique local flavor, business owners are engaged in a daily, desperate fight to keep the lights on, the staff paid, and the doors open. This isn't just a handful of isolated incidents. It's a systemic crisis facing countless small and mid-sized operators. Sounding the alarm, inflation and high rates crush Main Street. This week, From Kitchen to C-Suite is taking on the role of an early warning system, sounding the alarm on a critical economic situation that is hitting the heart of our communities. Our new, essential episode, Hospitality Industry Sounds Alarm, Inflation and High Rates Crush Main Street, unpacks the devastating synergy of two primary economic forces: runaway inflation and the Federal Reserve's campaign of persistently high interest rates. These are not merely abstract macroeconomic concepts relegated to Wall Street reports and academic journals. They are real-world, tangible threats that are actively crushing the day-to-day operations and future viability of Main Street hospitality businesses. We're witnessing a financial squeeze from two directions. One, the cost-side assault: inflation. We will dive into the relentless rise in operational expenditures, the cost of everything a hospitality business needs to function, from the core ingredients that define a menu and the energy to run the kitchen, to the essential labor needed to deliver service, is skyrocketing. These elevated costs are not merely eating into profits. For many, they are eroding what were already razor-thin margins, pushing once profitable ventures into the red. 2. The capital and growth freeze: high interest rates. Simultaneously, we will examine the crippling effect of the Federal Reserve's aggressive rate hikes. For a small business owner looking to replace aging equipment, renovate a dining room, manage seasonal cash flow with a line of credit, or plan an expansion, the cost of capital has become prohibitive. High interest rates are effectively tightening the screws on capital access, stalling necessary investment, halting expansion plans, and making debt service an overwhelming burden. A must-listen conversation. Join me this week as we host a vital discussion featuring seasoned industry experts, on-the-ground operators who are living this reality every day, and insightful economic analysts. We will work to understand the full, compounding impact of these economic headwinds on the human element of hospitality. This is a must-listen episode, not just for those who operate a restaurant, a bar, or a hotel, but for anyone who is invested in the cultural and economic future of local dining, community-focused travel, and the vibrancy of our American main streets. Tune in and arm yourself with the knowledge needed to navigate this challenging economic landscape. Hospitality Industry Sounds Alarm: Inflation and High Rates Crush Main Street. The hospitality industry, an essential pillar of local economies and the very epitome of Main Street commerce, is currently confronting a severe and escalating financial crisis of existential magnitude. Business proprietors nationwide are issuing a profound and unified warning regarding the relentless, dual pressures stemming from persistent high-level inflation and prohibitively high interest rates. This detrimental and synchronized economic confluence is not merely trimming profits. It is systematically undermining the core profitability and long-term stability, particularly for the small and medium-sized independent operators. The foundational element of the sector, encompassing independent restaurants, local cafes, and family-owned small hotels. The dual economic crisis, a two-pronged attack on viability, the fundamental and immediate threat to the industry's continued existence, is rooted in a synchronous and unyielding assault on its fiscal health. This crisis is unique in its ability to simultaneously and aggressively erode top-line revenue while brutally constricting bottom-line margins. The erosion of profit, sustained inflation, the continuous and sustained elevation in the cost of goods and labor, poses the most immediate, day-to-day challenge to operational solvency, making the simple act of opening for business an increasingly precarious financial decision. Elevated input costs. Operators report substantial, double-digit year-over-year increases in the cost of essential supplies. This includes a notable and volatile spike in core food ingredient pricing, commodities, fresh produce, and proteins, a significant rise in energy expenses, crippling utility bills for large-scale refrigeration and cooking, and higher fuel costs for deliveries, and sharply higher procurement costs for a wide range of operational necessities, from single-use paper goods to essential cleaning supplies. For a business segment characterized by inherently razor-thin margins, often in the low single digits, the requirement to unilaterally absorb these uncontrollable, pervasive cost escalations is proving to be financially unsustainable and ultimately fatal. Labor market dynamics and wage pressure. Although the general labor market has achieved some degree of stability in certain regions, the total expense associated with retaining and, more crucially, attracting skilled, reliable employees remains historically elevated. Increases in mandated minimum wages, the necessity of offering competitive benefits packages, and higher aggregate payroll taxes contribute to a significantly augmented and rigid operational burden that cannot easily be reduced. The impediment to cost recoupment, consumer resistance. While businesses endeavor to mitigate rising costs through modest, necessary increases in menu prices or room rates, this action almost universally encounters severe consumer resistance. Consumers, who themselves are facing severe budgetary constraints and diminished disposable income due to their own struggles with personal inflation, exhibit high price sensitivity. Attempting to transfer the full weight of inflation risks a sharp downturn in customer traffic and average expenditure per visit, a catastrophic compromise that many operators are simply unable to bear without collapsing. The restriction of growth, high interest rates, aggressive monetary policy, primarily implemented with the objective of moderating inflation, has inadvertently created a second, equally detrimental obstacle for small businesses: the crushing inability to secure affordable capital for both survival and expansion, crippling refinancing costs and debt service. Numerous businesses assumed substantial debt, including essential pandemic relief loans, such as PPP or EIDL, or standard capital expenditure loans, during the prolonged period of historically low interest rates. As this debt matures, the prevailing high interest rate environment renders refinancing not just expensive, but prohibitively so. The resulting surge in monthly debt service payments acts as a substantial, non-negotiable depletion of operational cash flow, rapidly jeopardizing solvency. Stifled investment and expansion. Elevated borrowing costs have necessitated a complete, industry-wide moratorium on non-essential capital expenditures. Operators are unable to obtain financing for absolutely critical, overdue upgrades, such as the replacement of aging, energy-inefficient kitchen apparatus, the implementation of essential energy-efficient technologies, or the pursuit of modest, local expansion opportunities. This prolonged lack of investment starves the business of opportunities to improve productivity and competitiveness, effectively imposing a ceiling on a business's potential for growth and adaptation. Financial strain, a survival test for Main Street operators. The cumulative impact of high, relentless operating costs, coupled with severely restricted and expensive credit access, is rendering the maintenance of basic profitability impossible for countless independent operators. For the independent, often family-owned establishment that serves as the heart of its community, the inability to access affordable capital is not a mere inconvenience. It constitutes a direct, immediate, and existential threat. These businesses rely entirely upon consistent, positive operational cash flow and judicious debt management for their sustained viability. To navigate this peril, operators have been forced to implement drastic, temporary measures. Operating costs mitigation. Expenses have increased substantially, driven by pervasive inflation across the food, labor, and energy sectors. To mitigate this impact, the company is maintaining an intensive focus on vendor negotiations to aggressively lower input costs, concurrently refining the menu to minimize food waste and preparation complexity, and employing strategic, surgical pricing adjustments to offset margin erosion. Capital access triage. The current financial environment involves restricted access to capital and acutely elevated interest rates, resulting in onerous debt service payments. In response, leadership is prioritizing immediate liquidity by deferring all non-essential capital expenditures, postponing routine preventative maintenance where safety permits, and instituting a rigid freeze on all future expansion initiatives. Preserving customer base. A potential decrease in customer traffic, or a trade-down effect, is anticipated as consumer inflation tightens household budgets. To preserve market share and loyalty, the strategy centers on vigorously promoting value-based offerings, specials, bundles, and aggressively enhancing customer loyalty programs, while internally shifting the sales mix toward high-margin items to boost profitability per transaction. Industry calls for immediate policy action. In response to the escalating crisis, industry representatives are actively and forcefully petitioning policymakers to acknowledge the singular vulnerability of small hospitality businesses within the current, restrictive macroeconomic climate. The demands are unequivocal, urgent, and focused on providing an immediate lifeline to prevent mass closures across the nation. Lowering interest rates. A direct and urgent appeal for the Federal Reserve to recognize the tangible, devastating impact of prolonged, high interest rates on small business cash flow, refinancing capabilities, and overall economic health. Targeted financial support. Calls for the institution of government programs, specific financial incentives, or streamlined, low-interest lending channels specifically designed to assist small businesses in managing high-cost operational debt and essential capital expenses for maintenance and technology upgrades. Absent a prompt and decisive policy adjustment that alleviates this crushing economic pressure, either through a sustained deceleration of inflation that reduces input costs, or More critically, a relaxation of restrictive lending conditions and interest rates. The anticipated closure rate for independent Main Street hospitality establishments is expected to accelerate significantly, fundamentally altering the character and stability of local economies. That brings us to the close of this week's comprehensive episode of From Kitchen to C-Suite. We've spent the hour meticulously peeling back the layers on a topic that is not merely an inconvenience, but an existential crisis top of mind for every restaurateur, hotelier, small business owner, and food and beverage professional in the hospitality space. The crushing, multifaceted economic pressure created by the dual forces of persistent inflation and high interest rates. The core message we have heard from operators and industry economists today is loud, clear, and urgent. Main Street is sounding a definitive, industry-wide alarm. This is not simply a conversation about marginally rising menu prices or slightly thinner profit margins. It's about the fundamental long-term viability of businesses that are the central, social, and economic anchors of our communities. Sky-high input costs, from essential commodities and specialty ingredients to energy and labor, are relentlessly squeezing margins from the top down. Simultaneously, the sustained high cost of capital is creating an impenetrable barrier, preventing essential infrastructure investments, delaying crucial technological upgrades, and, most critically, turning routine debt refinancing into a financial nightmare for countless independent operators. The financial strain is not abstract. It is acutely real, threatening to put many operators out of business, and the industry is now actively and desperately looking for both immediate policy solutions and strategic, sustainable pivots to weather this historic storm. We heard compelling, data-driven arguments that the only sustainable path forward requires a blend of innovation and aggressive operational discipline. This ranges from the fundamental rethinking and optimizing of complex supply chains and the adoption of cutting-edge technology to achieve aggressive cost management, to, crucially, collaborative efforts between industry leaders, trade organizations, and responsive policymakers. The fate of countless local restaurants, independent hotels, and small to mid-size hospitality groups hangs precariously in the balance. The industry needs strategic support to survive this financial crunch. Thank you for joining us for this vital discussion. We sincerely hope that today's deep dive provides you, our listener, with a more nuanced and deeper understanding of the complex, systemic challenges currently facing the hospitality industry and, more importantly, sparks some actionable ideas for your own immediate strategic planning and risk mitigation efforts. Don't forget to tune in to next week's highly anticipated episode. Hotels and restaurants pivot to sensory maximalism and entertainment to win back guests. As we face economic headwinds, the industry is innovating by creating high-value, memorable experiences. This deep dive will explore how operators are transforming dining and hotel spaces through intense sensory design, elaborate presentation, and combined dining and entertainment concepts. This is just one of the critical new trends we project will define the consumer experience in 2026. This important podcast, From Kitchen to C-Suite, is made possible and is supported by the generous and dedicated commitment of our sponsors, who believe in the mission of industry excellence and professional development. We extend a special thank you to HRB Universal. Their unwavering dedication to providing comprehensive educational resources, cutting-edge training, and promoting professional excellence is absolutely key to empowering entrepreneurs and professionals across the entire culinary, lodging, and hospitality industries to achieve their highest potential. We also want to acknowledge the impactful work of the Plate and Pour Collective Equity Partner Program. This innovative initiative is a true exemplar of commitment to fostering shared success, promoting equitable growth, and driving social responsibility within the food and beverage sector, helping a new generation of diverse entrepreneurs build a more inclusive, resilient, and thriving future for all. The challenging but rewarding journey to the C-suite is fueled by relentless innovation, unwavering dedication, and the right professional network and resources. We strongly encourage you to engage with the robust resources and indispensable support offered by our dedicated sponsors. For comprehensive details on how to connect with HRB Universal and learn more about the Plate and Pour Collective Equity Partner Program, please visit hrbuni.com or simply search for HRB Universal on Google. We look forward to having you join us for our next episode of From Kitchen to C-Suite, where we will continue to explore captivating and practical topics designed to elevate your career, expand your knowledge, and fuel your entrepreneurial drive. Tune in now wherever you get your podcasts. https://link tr.ee/from_kitchen_to_C-suite. Until then, keep innovating, keep optimizing your operation and your balance sheet, and we'll see you at the C-Suite.